Twi'lek is the worst thing, and this show is ruined forever.
Princess Twilight is the perfect example of the hero's journey, and anyone who doesn't agree can just leave this fandom. Leave Twilight alone, I'm serious!
Ugh, everyone and their grandma seems to have weighed in on Princess Twilight Sparkle the Alicorn, and with Season 4 about to start up, we're looking at more and more arguments. At one end of the reaction spectrum, we have the Ragers. These livid fans think that Alicorn Twilight is just the worst thing ever, and this show is stupid now and I'm leaving forever. But not really. And at the opposite extreme, we have the Zealots. These dewy-eyed fans believe that Princess Twilight is just the greatest thing ever, and this show is absolutely perfect, and anyone who doesn't agree can just GTF all of our fandom. And somewhere between these extremes lie the voices of sanity that remind us Season 4 hasn't aired yet, we've only seen Princess Twilight for about 5 minutes, and there's no point in judging the show before we've had a few episodes to get used to the new dynamic. But this is the internet, and no one listens to that. So in the spirit of unrealistic expectations, I'd like to present 5 topics that could either propel Princess Twilight and the show to new heights, or bite her right in the flank. All aboard the hype train! And let's start things off with a one-trick pony. This is a press release from head writer Megan McCarthy. We're building a very unique mythology around being a princess. Every little girl wants to be a princess, not everybody can get to be a princess. But you can live up to the ideals that should come along with being a princess. To me, this statement was more troubling than the actual announcement about Twilight becoming an Alicorn princess. In addition to being a gross generalization, it's a declaration that being a princess is Twilight's sole defining characteristic. This wasn't helped by a recent Hub poll that said, "Vote Twilight Sparkle for Best Pony because she's a princess." Or the Equestria Girls live-action music video.
Twilight sparkles, a princess who shines.
Not Twilight with her magical mind, and no mention of voting for the intelligent, brave heroine we've watched for 3 seasons. Nope, she's a princess, and that's what makes her unique, because there aren't 3 other characters with the same title. Part of the show's appeal was that the main heroine wasn't your typical fairy tale lead. And I'm not talking about the hooves or mane. She wasn't a princess. She wasn't beloved by all, and she wasn't going on the quest for any of the usual reasons. She was a reclusive workaholic who had a clear goal, and we got to witness her coming out of her shell. Now she is a princess, and I'm concerned the show might travel down the same stereotypical paths as the other princess tales. Yet before we hit the abandon show button, it's important to remember that the show writers have done incredible things before, including putting new twists on fairy tale tropes. If Twilight's new role serves as a framework, her character has great opportunity. And Twilight has always been a leader, long before she gained that crown. The qualities that make her great weren't bestowed along with her title, rather she has that crown because of her personality. So that's Princess Twilight, but what about the Alicorn? After all, this show is no longer 2 of a kind. When Twilight first became an Alicorn, many fans pointed out the show had lost the balance of 2 Earth ponies, 2 Pegasi, and 2 of the Master Race, unicorns. Other fans dismissed this criticism, but I'd caution to give it some thought. This is a visual medium we're dealing with, and the themes we literally see have an impact on how we interpret the show. Another positive of the show is that we have 6 distinct personalities, each one having a chance to shine with moments of heroism and triumph, and each has a moment of weakness, stressing that there are many types of female personalities, and one is not supposed to be better than another. The similar height and body shapes of the main cast, which could easily become a sign of conformity, instead come across as a sign of equality and harmony. But now...
One of these things is not like the others. Which one is different? Do you know?
We've got a character who has longer legs than an Earth pony, bigger wings than a Pegasus, and a longer horn than most unicorns. Visually, this can shatter the image of balance or harmony, and say that one personality, the ever-studious Twilight Sparkle, is better than the athlete, the worker, the creative, and others. I really doubt that's the message the writers want to convey, yet I can see how people would interpret it. Yet, let's also ask what Alicorns, the deluxe edition of ponies, represent. As an ideal, Alicorns are supposed to be the best of all 3 races. They found the balancing point, and represent that level of harmony by themselves. Twilight became an Alicorn because of the lessons she learned from her friends. She isn't better than them, she's become a better pony because of them. And let's be honest, this far into the show, do we really love these characters because one has a horn and another has wings? My favorite character is a Pegasus who's afraid of heights, and I didn't hear any complaints when the Cutie Mark Crusaders added another Earth pony to the mix. Again, this is all going to hinge on how the writers present Twilight in her new role. And if you're still hung up on the numbers, think of it this way. We now have 3 ponies with hooves on the ground and 3 in the air. And speaking of 3s, let's talk about the other 3 princesses. Because if the goal is to create a new mythology around princesses, they really could have done more with these 3. Supporters have pointed out that equestrian princesses are different than the fairy tale stock because they take an active leadership role and have earned their crowns. Supposedly, that means the equestrian rulers are the best of the best. Yet, I must respectfully disagree because I think the way Celestia, Luna, and Cadence have been presented reinforces the princess stereotype. How often have we actually witnessed these 3 leading? My answer, once each. Crystal Empire Part 1, Crystal Empire Part 2, and Sleepless in Ponyville. These are the only episodes where we actually saw the princesses performing duties that weren't for the sake of an audience. In any other appearance, the princesses are there for the crowd, looking pretty and trying to add a face to the event without having to do any leadership. Or, worse still, they're trying to perform their duties and failing. Sure, you can tell me that they're great rulers. You can tell me that it's hard to be a princess. But when all I see is Cadence being pampered while other ponies do all the work, then I'm not buying it. Then again, I already said that Twilight has shown leadership qualities. She's overseen town events, led the main cast on adventures, and she's the go-to pony when a crisis arises. Twilight has the opportunity to truly break the mold. Unlike the other three, Twilight has no backstory as a royal, and so we get to see her grow into the role from day one. Plus, her peers have an opportunity to show their own qualities by serving as mentors. The princesses have had to take a backseat in past adventures so Twilight and company could save the day, but now they all have a chance to shine. If Twilight can struggle with her new role and learn to fit, then she'll be celebrated and definitely won't be forgotten. Hey, remember these idiots?
Important ponies, these ruffians?
It's moments like this that I worry about the equestrian newspaper system because clearly no one is reading it. Well, you can say goodbye to that problem because Twilight Station is now a physical trait. Any pony that fails to recognize her now will either be blind or stupid, or the writers will have really messed up. Unfortunately, that means her slice of life days are done. We've already seen how ponies react to royalty. Given the reverence they show to alicorns, it's unlikely that Twilight can just wander into a new setting and act casually. Cadence was an attempt at an easygoing, relatable princess, and again, this is the closest we've gotten to a slice of life setting for a princess. The only thing worse than Twilight being ostracized is the thought that every pony will treat her the same, with no notice of her new role. In other words, it'd be the inverse of Princess Promenade.
The horror! The horror!
Now, while I would miss the slice of life aspect, this would be an interesting challenge. We've seen how important social status is to Canterlot ponies. I imagine many would want to get to know the newest princess. They briefly touched on this in A Canterlot Wedding, Part 1.
And she decided to replace her bridesmaids because she found out the only reason they wanted to be in the wedding was so they could meet Canterlot royalty.
This would touch back on the moral from Griffin the Brush-Off, learning the difference between true and false friends. Though hopefully she won't forget the other 5. There's been a disturbing trend since the end of Season 2. Twilight's quests have featured her friends less and less. Oh, they tag along, sure. Yet we then reach a point where Twilight ditches them to complete the quest alone, and they provide the comedic relief. Now that she's a princess and an alicorn, what does this mean for the others? I mean, nothing says friendship like having all your friends bow to you. Hear me, friends. I'd like you all to show your camaraderie by bowing before me. Whoa, hey, wait, what are you? Oh my god, ow, no, ow, oh, no, that's not bowing. Ow, ow, oh. Yeah, bowing's a no-no. Lesson 0 shook up the dynamic when Twilight's friends were empowered to write their own friendship reports. It signaled they were strong enough to carry an episode on their own. Putting the focus back on Twilight can feel like a regression. There's genuine concern that other fan favorites will be overshadowed. And how do you have conflict when there's always the princess option? Hallelujah. And yet, that'd be a good early episode for Season 4. How tempting must it be to use and abuse your friend's new position of power? I could see Twilight's friends learning a lesson and fulfilling their lifelong ambitions without using Twilight as a crutch. Even with Celestia and Luna ruling the land, we still care about what happens to these ponies because we like the characters. Rank and social status have nothing to do with it. And while their conflicts might not impact national events, they're still fun to watch. Not all of them received wings and horns, still holding my breath on Alicorn Fluttershy, yet this new dynamic is going to have an impact on them all. And if we can't enjoy watching our favorite characters adapt to the new situation, then we wouldn't be fans of the show in the first place. Let's see how they do in Season 4. I'm Silver-Quill, thanks for watching.
Shines from a true friend.